All right, guys. Well, I just wanted to do a quick video with Pastor Tommy McMurtry, just giving an update on our new film, A City Lost. And I recently sent out the link to all the supporters of the film. I sent it to Pastor McMurtry, and I sent it to all the, I should say, producers of the film. So $1,000 and up donors. I sent the link to the movie to because I wanted to get feedback on this project. And I must say, I have gotten really good feedback on this film, and I cannot wait for this to get out there and get people, uh, you know, talking about a subject that I feel is not very much talked about. And I think this film is going to strengthen a lot of people's faith. And so, Pastor McMurtry, you recently saw the film. What are your thoughts on the documentary so far?
Yeah, well, I absolutely love it. I think it's just a very well done documentary. I go through these phases where I watch documentaries, on biblical locations, and I enjoy documentaries on just about anything. And I just think this documentary is so much, it's done so much better than most that I see. The visuals are fantastic, and the information is great too. I mean, you are going to learn so much stuff about the location of the temple that from watching this video. And so it's fascinating because there's so many when we read our Bibles, especially as a pastor, we're usually looking for something that'll preach, something that we can take to the pulpit. And I'm amazed at how many things I've just missed because when it comes to locations, we don't pay that much attention to it, because we're not trying to figure out where different things happen because we've never been there. So it's very hard for us to accurately picture these things. But the Bible actually gives a lot of details when it comes to these things because of the fact a lot of these books that were written specifically to Israel. They wanted them to know borders of certain things. They wanted them to know where certain events took place, and of course, in the Old Testament, they were supposed to keep things centered around Jerusalem, and that was where they were supposed to worship. And so, the Bible gives a lot of details on this stuff for a reason, and it's just fascinating to listen to a guy like Robert Cornuke, who is an archaeologist. He was a police investigator, and when he's reading the Bible, he's paying attention to things that, pastors, we just don't really pay that much attention to. And so it's fascinating to me just how many things as I was watching the documentary, and I'm like, oh, wow, I never even put those things together. But it makes it really clear that, you know, where they say the temple was, it's not the right location. So I find it fascinating.
Yeah, I really feel like this film does a better job than any other film out there on this subject. And there's not much information on the subject. There's another short documentary that was released called Temple on YouTube. You can check it out by Robert Cornuke. But the problem with a lot of these videos is they don't give all the information, and they use the wrong version of the Bible to
Mhm.
prove their point, which I don't really understand why they do that, because the King James makes all those points even stronger, I believe.
Mhm.
And so that's why I feel like this film is so powerful, because of the massive amount of Bible that's used in this film. Uh, I mean, when you watched the film, did you originally think that this film would have as much Bible as it has?
No, no, I was amazed at how much there was. Because again, when you're studying the Bible, you're not really looking for these things. We're looking for the stuff of doctrinal significance, depending on what we're wanting to preach about. But I mean, even just many of the verses that were used in Psalms. Psalms has a lot of information on this subject, and just things that I never noticed until recently. Um, I'm amazed too at one of the things that was fascinating to me on this documentary is connections that this documentary makes to like different locations in the Bible because the Bible covers a very long period of time, and places didn't always have the same names. But at the same time, if you are paying close attention, if you're thinking about these things, the Bible lets you know, what the names of these places were, and what it kind of changed to, and you can kind of follow these things along. And it does, and um it gives very specific details, just like the I think, what was it, the Valley of Shiva, I believe it's
Yeah.
called.
Hmm.
I never had connected that to the Kidron Valley, the Valley of Jehoshaphat. I mean, people don't realize, these are all the same location. They just had different names and different times. And then, two, just some of the specifics about Salem and Jerusalem and the connection to Melchizedek. So, when you start keeping track of the names of all of these places, which most of us don't do, I don't know too many preachers that do that. I know I haven't done that in the past. But when you pay attention to all that and you piece it all together, it really shows that the Bible has given us these details for a reason, because these are very important locations. And I believe God wanted them, in as Jews, remembering these places, understanding the importance of them, because at the end of the day, everything in the Bible, everything points to what took place before the temple, meaning it like in front of or east of the temple. And that's what happened on Mount Calvary, the most important thing ever. And when you pay attention to these things, it's just amazing how, of course, God always saw it coming. And, um, and now one of the things I like about this documentary too, it takes the time to point out why it all went away. Because it's like, well, wait a minute. If all of these details are so important, you know, why did we forget these things? And I personally believe, and I think it's very clear scripturally, that while they were supposed to remember all these places, it's spelled out in Hebrews, all of that was temporary. When Jesus Christ came, they were supposed to follow him. And so I'm not rebuking any Christian for not understanding all the things about the details and the locations of these different places. Hey, if you know Jesus, then that's what it's all about. You can know all these archaeological details. If you don't know Jesus, you're in trouble. But we don't have to know about all these things. But the problem that I have, and the reason I'm one of the many reasons I'm really excited about this documentary, is it does end up pointing out a fantastic truth that I think people have just ignored. And that is, it explains why the temple went away. But then, two, it reminds everybody that, this temple that we believe is coming prophetically, it's not a good thing, and we shouldn't support it. And what's happening, Christians now have been taking all these pilgrimages to Israel and Jerusalem, and they've been being fed a lot of Zionist propaganda. And they feel like they're learning all of these great truths that connect them with the Bible. And as a result, all of them come away more supportive of Israel. I mean, and I was one of them back when I went in 2000. I mean, I came back more supportive of Israel. It's like you were cheering for their success and all these things. You want them to have this land. You want them to get the temple rebuilt because Bible prophecy talks about it. But it was very eye-opening to me when I started figuring out that, wait, everything they're saying is just completely false. Why are they lying about these things? Why are they ignoring all these just blatantly obvious truths? And it's because when you start seeing the truth of these different things, it it causes you to, first off, it points you to Jesus Christ, because you understand how he fulfilled all these things. You understand too, you start asking the questions, why did it go away? Well, that becomes very clear too, because the temple and the things of law, it was a stumbling block for the Jews. It was a good thing for the Jews when all of those things went away. It got rid of a massive distraction for them. And so, but unfortunately, with Christians not understanding all this stuff, they're being lied to, they're coming back supporting Israel. They've gone as far as where they're actually excited about another temple being rebuilt. You know, you have Greg Locke, cheering on the Israelis to blow up the Dome of the Rock so they can rebuild that third temple and usher in the rapture, and not understanding that the rebuilding of the temple is an antichrist thing. It is rejecting what Jesus did, and not only is it rejecting what he did, and did they do that in the first century, but when God brought that judgment and that destruction on Jerusalem, removing those things, that was the most clearest, obvious sign that the presence of God was in fact gone from that temple and gone from Jerusalem. And but you know what? 2,000 years later, what are they doing? They're still not getting the message, and they are doing everything they can to get the world behind them, taking over that area. Why? So they can rebuild a temple, something God got rid of, something that God revealed. The blood of bulls and goats can't take away sins. And I believe the world uniting behind a rebuilding of the temple is a uniting in rebellion against Jesus Christ. And so um, this documentary points out just these obvious things.
Right. And I feel like, a lot of people don't understand the concepts of like where Jerusalem began. And
Mm.
so that what's so cool about this is it shows people like Jerusalem. When you think of Jerusalem and where it began, you really just your mind just goes to the Temple Mount, and that's kind of
Mm.
all you see. But Jerusalem actually began in the city of David, and the reason it began in the city of David is because that's where the water supply was. Every city starts around water and kind of moves out. And, scholars agree that the city of Jerusalem began at the city of David. Well, what we know today is the city of David, but the city of David wasn't always known as the city of David. If you look at the Bible, it used to be called Salem. And then later it became the Jebusites. The Jebusites owned and controlled that land. And if you look at the Jerusalem, the name Jebusites, and Salem, Jerusalem, because that's where it originates from. And and names, like you were saying, changes around that area so much that it's hard to put these pieces together. And I think this film does a really good job at explaining those things. And I feel like people are going to walk away with a much more profound knowledge of the Bible and kind of the history of a lot of these events, because a lot of events in the Bible take place right there. I mean, if you look at Melchizedek and the this the pre-incarnate appearance of Jesus Christ, of Melchizedek, in Genesis 14, that takes place right there in the city of David in the valley of Sheva, or however you pronounce that. I'm not sure. Shiva. But it all takes place right there, and Jesus' crucifixion right there within eyesight of the city of David. And so this film really gives a great history of the city of David, and also really just makes you aware, I think, of a lot of things that people have no clue on. Most of the people, most of the producers I showed this to said they didn't know any of this stuff. Like, I think a lot of people, the average viewer out there, is going to watch this film and their mind's just going to be like, what? I've never heard any of this information before. And it's super fascinating. And I really truly believe that people are going to walk away from this film being like, wow, okay, I understand this a lot clearer now. The whole idea of the temple and why it was destroyed, and why, the temple is not important anymore. Jesus replaced the sacrifices. He replaced that sacrificial system. And I feel like the film does a really good job at the end at explaining that. And then, not to give the end away, but, this is the end, guys, is that, it's all about Jesus. And I feel like, when we were in Jerusalem, Pastor McMurtry, you did a fantastic job at really explaining that. And it wasn't in my mind that that was going to be the end. When we were up there, that's what you were wanting for the ending. I didn't really know what the ending was when we were shooting up there, when we went to Israel. But when you shot that, I mean, when you said said that, it was just like clicked. It was perfect. And
Mm.
everything is just, this film has just been a testament of just God's miraculous hand on it. Just through all the interviews I was able to get, the interview with the two main archaeologists that dug up all of the city of David for over 20 years. Like, that's crazy that I was able to get those interviews with Eli Shukran and Ronnie Reich. Ronnie Reich is a very well respected archaeologist in Israel that has excavated all over Jerusalem, but what he's mainly known for is the city of David. And I feel like it was God, because he doesn't like to do interviews a lot. I feel like God just let that interview happen because it's important to this topic. And again, with Bob, just him supporting the film and doing all the shoots with me, I just feel like this film is just such a blessing. And all the money coming in when we needed it. It seems like every time we've needed the money to come in to shoot the next interview or shoot the next part or do the next trip, it always has come in. And we're to a point right now where the film is nearly done. I have a really good rough edit of the film. I still need to trim it down. It's still too long a little bit. But that those are all, I mean, that it really happens pretty quickly at this point. I really believe right now I'm going to be waiting on other things than me getting it done. So yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts, Pastor?
Yeah. Well, I'm really, when I was over there, again, most people aren't familiar with the archaeological world and stuff. I had learned recently about, Bob Cornuke, because I had read some of his books before we went over there, or I'd read one of them. And but after we came back too, I found out, man, I was watching a bunch of videos about the location, and just I wanted to hear what the opposition was saying, after now having experienced these things, seeing these things. And I had all kinds of people too sending me videos. Hey, what about this? What about this? And it's one of those things when, if you've been over there, if you're familiar with the layout and you understand the arguments on both sides, I mean, I really do feel like this documentary is going to hold up to scrutiny. But I found out too, Bob Cornuke's a pretty big deal in that world. Everybody refers to him when they're trying to debunk the city of David idea, because he is leading voice in that. Eli Shukran too. I didn't realize. I wish I'd got my picture with him. I didn't realize how big of a deal he was in that world too. I mean, he has discovered a lot of things, and it was very interesting when uh, interviewing him, when we were talking to him, and he's explaining everything. How many facts he gives that, like, would lead you to the conclusion this is where the temple was, but yet he still won't say that. And I don't think people realize too, in Israel, if you're going to be a tour guide and things like that, you can lose your credentials real easy if you're not saying the right stuff. And so it's really hard to know by, when you're hearing truth from people who are on the payroll, because they will lose their livelihood if they say the wrong things. But
Yeah.
yeah, but he was fascinating.
No, I mean, people don't realize that to be an archaeologist, you have to go to their school
Hmm.
and you have to pass their classes, the state classes. These are state run classes and stuff. And then they approve you, and they can take that credential away from you at any point. And, going against these kind of topics is a good way to get that credential taken away.
Yeah, absolutely. But when it comes to this documentary, and I've watched everything I can find on this subject, but I do think, and I think I believe I say this with no prejudice. I believe just the quality, the visuals, and everything are superior to anything else that you'll see about Jerusalem. I believe the content, the information is great. And there's other things people have done that have a lot of good information and content, but it's very amateurish. A lot of it looks like, people just did their own research, pulled footage off the internet, and kind of put it together. But the other thing too, even when it comes to some of the better ones on both ends, they they don't give a positive doctrinal message. At the end of the day, most things about Jerusalem, it's all about the history. You know, Christians, Muslims, Jews, we're all wonderful. We all have this connection. Why can't we just hold hands and sing kumbaya about it? It's there's really no good message to it. But I really think that this documentary for sure has it's one of these things where I think a lot of the audience for this are going to be people who've been to Israel. People, when you've been to Israel and you're familiar with these locations, I don't know, there's something much more fascinating about it. I think people that are familiar with these places and have been there are going to appreciate this movie a lot more. And I think they're going to love this information. I think they're going to be fascinated as they watch through it all. But those who have not been there, again, you just never even thought about these places. You're going to be being introduced to these locations, and I think it will spark your interest in that area for sure. But if you ever go to Israel, then you're going to go back and watch this, and you're going to appreciate it even more. There's this, I don't know how to explain it, but that's just how it is. But these people, they're going to be hooked, and then they are going to get a real conclusion to this documentary. It's not one that just kind of leaves you hanging. I think it ends not saying we know the exact spot. No, it's saying we don't know the exact spot, and here's why. And it gives something of very important doctrinal significance that's just not talked about. And even many people who recognize these facts, it's like they still don't come to the right conclusions on these things. And it's like you're the ones that should understand this more than anybody. But so I do. I love the message of this documentary.
Yeah, me too. I never envisioned this film. So before we started making this film, I wrote out like a 20-page script on the movie. I like to do that before I make the movie, just to have some kind of idea of where it's going. And if you look at that script today, it's so much different than what the movie ended up being, because it's been a journey. Like, if you look at those earlier interviews, I didn't ask the right questions, a lot of them, just because my mind was in a different direction. But as this film has gone on, uh, it's really became clear what the focus should be, and I feel like we just nailed it.
Yeah. Well, the one thing that's not on this film that I wish could have been on the film. The problem is it was very difficult. It's very difficult to get Jewish people to do interviews, and I wish we could have done an interview with the
Yeah.
Temple Mount Institute guy.
Yeah.
But I think one of the most fascinating things for me personally that's not on this film, because we went into this thinking we were going to show all this stuff, showing all these efforts to get the temple rebuilt. And I think almost would have been a fascinating documentary. It would have been us on this journey to go, show all the efforts being made to rebuild the temple, and to find out it's not even really a thing, and any attempts to rebuild the temple, it's verbal stuff that's going on with certain fringe groups. There is no real effort to get the temple rebuilt right now. And to me, those are very eye-opening conversations for me. And so I know in my mind before we went over to Israel, what I was thinking, I thought that was going to be a big part of it. But at the same time, the one thing that I did hope from the beginning that we would get to cover on this, because if I've learned anything from studying all this, also too, understanding the significance of the destruction of Jerusalem, doctrinally speaking, is that yeah, we've got to show people why the temple went away. Nobody talks about that, and I think it's so important, and it's a great way to point people to Jesus Christ. And if you want to go to Jerusalem to see old stuff and to think about the fact you're in the general area where certain things happen, that's great. But at the end of the day, um, you know, it doesn't matter if you never go there. It's being close to Christ is what's going to make you better off doctrinally and spiritually. and all these things. And a lot of that stuff, it really is a distraction. I think if you are going to go to Israel, it's important you have your eyes open in these areas, because otherwise you're going to be very open to deception. And I got sucked into a lot of stuff after I went there back in 2000. And I hope this, film will wake people up in that area.
Right. Well, I think a lot of people don't talk about the temple being taken away because they don't want to offend Jewish people. I mean, the
Yeah.
reason the temple went away is because Jesus, because Jesus
Mhm.
came and was the replacement. He was that sacrificial lamb, and so we don't need the temple anymore because Jesus um, is the temple. We are the temple now.
Absolutely
So
right. Well, and I tell you another thing too, and this is just my opinion. And if somebody out there listening agrees with this, I want you to make a very large donation to Framing the World. And I want you to mention on there you're doing this for a project Pastor Tommy wants you to do. And that is, I think we need a really good documentary about the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD. I think that is such an ignored topic, and I think it is. I think it's very important, and a lot of people are starting to talk about it, but they're coming to some wrong doctrinal conclusions. And I think it's a subject that futurists, which I am a futurist, they've ignored it. They've ignored the significance of it. They've not talked about it. And now we've got a movement of preterists coming along that's all they do is talk about the destruction of Jerusalem, and they give a whole bunch of fascinating information, um, even accurate information. They give you a lot of facts and details that you've never heard before. That I do think have some doctrinal significance to them, but those people are taking that information and they're jumping to a wrong conclusion. And people in the futurist world, because they just are completely ignorant of the subject, they don't know how to respond to these things. And I think that I think it's an important subject. And so, um, you know, at the end of the day, I know, Brother Paul, you only have so much time to do things, and and of course, I'm very limited on the financial end. But if somebody was like, "Man, I'd get behind that thing," well, then see if you can
yeah. Well,
send Brother Paul some motivation, because
anything I love any topic about the Roman Empire, stuff like
Mhm.
that. That's a super fascinating subject to me. So I would be down to do that if
Yeah, and aren't
people
all
were
men supposed to be
interested.
about talking about the Roman Empire? So,
Yeah.
if you're an alpha male, donate some money to the
Yeah.
Jewish Roman War documentary. But there's a lot of stuff online, but it's always just like really low quality.
Yeah.
Everything was done by a guy on his computer pulling stuff off the internet. And there's good information and things on there, but um, the visuals too, I mean, with all the footage that you got when you were over there, there's a lot of stuff that could, you've already got that I think could be used for that. And I think it
Yeah.
would be a
Yeah,
very interesting
there's
thing.
definitely a lot of footage I got that I'm not using.
Mm.
Like the original, even opening credits of the film were totally different concept, so I got a lot of footage that I never ended up using. But everything's for a reason. It's better now. The movie's better now how it is. And that's how it works. You shoot stuff, you think it's going to be this way. You spend a month editing a scene and then you realize, it's not it doesn't fit with the movie, it's gone. It's like
Hmm.
it's just how it is with these projects. But let's talk about where we're at now in the project. So we have the rough edit done. The main thing right now we need to do to get this movie out the door is to finish the voices. There's three main narrations on this movie. There is the main narrator voice, which it's a lot of narration in this film. The main narrator voice, which I just got the final narration today. So we have the main narration done in the film. What we what we have left to do is the Bible narration. I want that to be a different voice for all the verses in the Bible. And then we have a lot of quotes in this film from historical sources. I want that to be a different voice. So there's two other voices we still need to um, pay for. And then as soon as we get those voices into the film, we can send the film off to post sound, and they can start with the music and sound effects and just leveling all the stuff out. But that's kind of where we're at right now. Is we need to raise the funds to be able to get these voices done, so we can move on to the next step. And so if you guys, haven't supported the film and you want to support it, we definitely are still taking donations. If you go to framingtheworld.com, you can see the film A City Lost on the main page if you scroll down. And you can click on that and you'll see what you get for the different levels of donation. But to become an associate producer is really cool, because it's $1,000 to become associate producer, and you really kind of become part of the team. You get access to all the rough cuts of the film, and you can send me emails, make suggestions, call me up, and work together with me. I've had such a great time doing it this way. I've never made a film where I've actually engaged with the producers of the film to get their input and stuff, and I feel like it's really made it better. They've pointed out things that they necessarily didn't think were the best, and I've agreed with a lot of it. Some things I don't agree with, but ultimately it's been a very positive experience. I've always been hesitant to do it in the past because it's hard for people to understand, this is temporary sound. This is not the final music. This is not the final anything. There's a lot of missing graphics on the screen and stuff like that. So a lot of people don't know how to visualize or envision what it's ultimately going to look like. So I've had a hard time in the past showing it to people because of that reason. Like, for instance, when I made my other films, I've showed it to people prior to the release, and it's always a lot of negative comments, and I'm like, but that's all going to change, because I know what it's going to look like at the end, but I feel like a lot of people don't. But this film, I've done a better job at explaining that to people before them watching it, and the production quality is so much higher in this that I feel like the rough cut's a lot better than even those past films. So anyways, that is the next step. We need to raise the funds to be able to get that audio done, and then once that's done, I can start sending this off to post sound. It's split up into 4 reels, so they're 4 like 30-minute sections, 20 to 30-minute segments, and right now I can send off reel 2. Reel 2 is pretty much done to post sound. So if I was able to get that audio, we could send it off and start that process, and then really, once that process starts, it's going to be done within a month and a half. So we're really close. Literally, all we have to do is raise the money to get these voices done, and we are nearly done with this production. Yeah, so very exciting, very exciting. There's a lot of other things we have to purchase, like stock footage, and I have to get some animation done and some stuff like that. But ultimately, it is nearly done. I just need a little bit more support to get this done. And then what I also want to talk about, and this is something I wanted to talk to Pastor McMurtry about, is the release of the film. So the main release of the film is going to be through Rediscover Television. That is the main producer of this film, the main donor of this film is Rediscover Television. So it's going to be digitally released on there. We're also considering Netflix, Amazon, and also another distribution that I want to do, but I'm just not sure which film festivals to put it in. But I want to get this thing in film festivals. The main film festival that I wanted to get it in is actually happening right now. It happened, I think, it's literally happening right now as we speak in Florida, and so that's unfortunate. We didn't make it, get it done in time for that film festival, and it's only once a year. But I'm hoping we can get it done, get it in other film festivals, get this out to people because, people need to hear this truth. And I really feel like with such a strong ending that points to Jesus and has such an uplifting message, I really feel like it's not only going to strengthen people's faith, but I think a lot of people are going to get saved from this film. And even in the after the credits, we have the plan of salvation that you did, Pastor McMurtry, that I thought was just fantastic that you recorded in Jerusalem. And so I'm just excited to get this out there to people. And having it through Rediscover Television, it'll be free on there for people to view eventually. That I feel like this has a potential of reaching a much larger audience because it's not as controversial as some of my previous stuff, and that's why it'll be allowed to be on more platforms.
Yeah, well, and that's where, again, if people could support it financially, but then two, just, pray that God will open doors, because one thing when it comes to things getting out there, it's just sometimes is just the right timing, the right person, the right place with the right connections, getting a hold of it. And, so if certain doors are opened, you had documentaries in the past that, were promoted by Alex Jones, and that, made a big difference. And so, um, just pray we can find the right people to view this that will help get it out there in a big way. And I think the timing's important. We need to hurry up. We need to hurry up and get this out too. We've got all the stuff going on in Israel right now, and I think that um, there's a heightened awareness of a lot of things over there right now too. And I think too, it could potentially get a lot of people's attention, because it's like, well, wait a minute, we've got all this stuff going on over there because of the Temple Mount and everything, and that's not even the right place. So it's, this documentary, it should help spark a lot of conversations about a lot of important things. One, about the location, which has a lot of political implications that are important, but then two, the doctrinal things. There's a lot of stuff doctrinally that people are not talking about that they should understand. And so it's just a matter of getting this out there and being seen. So just be praying very much that the Lord will open doors.
Right. Yeah. And there is power in prayer, and so I know uh, if you truly believe in this project, put us on your prayer list so we can get this thing out there to a lot of people. But any closing thoughts here, Pastor? I just wanted to just tell people, give people an update, and kind of just get people excited about this film. What are some of your closing thoughts here?
Yeah, no, just yeah, please again pray for the film, support the film. I would encourage anybody to get interested in a lot of the biblical locations. It's a great subject, and there's so much stuff too available on the internet. There's a lot of good information, and there's a lot to be gained from learning about it. On my channel, I've got several videos from the different places we went to in Jerusalem. I've got 360 videos. I just went back and I was watching with an Oculus our walk through the Kidron Valley, and oh, it made me want to go back so bad when I was like when I was watching that. And so the more you know about the subject going into this film, the more you're gonna like it. And I think people who know absolutely nothing about the locations are still going to enjoy it. Um, but I think the more you know about the subject, the more interested you're going to be in it. And it's a longer film, but also I'm familiar with what the opposition says, and so there's like a part of me is like, man, I I don't want those who aren't real, who only know what we show them, to then watch what some of these other people are saying and think they debunked it, because again, I think I've heard all the arguments against the city of David, and they
Yeah,
don't
they
hold
don't.
up to scrutiny.
They don't at all, and they use straw man arguments a lot
Oh yeah.
in a lot of those things. But we got to get the Pastor McMurtry tours to Israel going.
Oh man, I'm telling you, I am hoping this year. I think what I've decided to do, I'm going to choose a date. Um, on when we're going to go, and then I'm going to tell everyone, all right, mark your calendars for this.
Yeah.
But then 2 months before, that's when we pull the plug and we make the decision: are we going to go or not? Because it's like every time you start thinking, it'll be safe, then it's like you hear about something else happening, and
Yeah.
So but if
Well,
the first trip, it's going to be a little more exclusive. But the first one I'm planning on doing, it's going to be a 4-day, three night, all on foot, all in Jerusalem, and I'm telling you, it will be anybody who's ever been to Jerusalem before, you ever been there,
yeah.
it will be your most enjoyable, informative trip that you have ever had.
You don't have to get in a car. You don't have to.
Yes,
Yeah.
no bus. The Doing things in Jerusalem in the evenings and at night is one of the best times to do things. Hardly anybody does that stuff on their trips. Typically, the tour buses, they get back to the hotel in the evening, they have supper, and some people might leave and go do some stuff, but most people are too scared.
Right.
And
Well,
but
I think the
that's the
problem is
best
though,
time.
Pastor, because a lot of places close at like 6 or 7 over there. And so, but in Jerusalem, there's a lot of stuff open after 6
Mhm.
and 7. So that's why a lot of tours end so early, is just because everything's closed if outside of Jerusalem.
Yeah, and when you go on the main tours too, everybody goes during peak hours. Everything's busy.
Yep.
Things are more controlled. You pretty much have the run of the place in the evening, and nobody says anything. I
Yeah.
mean, I was doing whatever I wanted, going wherever I wanted, just exploring in
Yep.
the city. And I'm telling you, man,
Get
I
all
had
that
a
candy
time.
you want.
What's that?
Man, that candy that you
Oh,
would bring back, the best
yes.
candy in the world.
Yeah, if you go through it's in the Palestinian area, they have all these shops and things. They've got like all these gummy candies
They're
that
so good.
it's not like they make it in America.
Uh-uh.
And it's cheap, and you will go nuts with this stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
I did
I-
not bring enough. I brought back some because I have 7 kids. So when I brought back the well, I had 6 kids then, but when I brought back the candy, it looked like a lot in my suitcase, but it
mm,
was not a lot. It was
yeah,
gone within 2 days.
yeah, I brought back quite a bit, but it was it had been it was starting to get a little stale. It was still good,
Yeah.
but I'm telling you, you get it fresh from there, man.
Yeah.
You just it's just like it's incredible. But
Yeah.
yeah, and I learned so much stuff when I was there. I will be the most interesting tour guide
You got to get
you
the
ever had.
headset though, just like the professional tour guides get. You got to get the headset with those little. I wonder how much those would cost if you could pick up some of those.
Anything to make me look more
Yeah,
professional.
yeah, you
And
need that. Yep.
because I have learned too that I think one of the reasons too that
You won't be staying in a nice hotel either with this Pastor McMurtry tour.
no,
But they might have breakfast at that one hotel
yeah,
if you stay
I
there.
thought that hotel was fine.
Yeah,
Yeah. If you're going for luxury, don't come on this trip. But this will be the cheapest trip
yeah,
you've ever had. The only thing that will be expensive is the plane ticket.
yeah. And you're not going to see outside Jerusalem. This is Jerusalem
Right.
only tour.
Yeah. The only thing I haven't looked into this yet. I'm hoping maybe you can take a train. That train they have. I'm wondering if it goes into Bethlehem, because I would like to go into Bethlehem. But
I think there is. There's a bus. What am I saying? I think I did it with my dad. We took a bus from
Okay.
right there by the Temple Mount. It takes you right to Bethlehem.
Okay.
Yep.
But yeah, but eventually I do want to host the full tour with the bus, the hotels, restaurants, all that kind of stuff. I would like to do that eventually, but at this point in my life, I don't really have the financial ability or pull to make that happen. But we'll get there.
But
We're
I
gonna
think
start
you
small.
could do the tour. Let's talk money here real quick before we go. So how much do you think you could pull off the tour for?
You talking about the bus one or the cheap one I'm
The
wanting to
cheap
do?
one you want to do.
The cheap one I'm wanting to do, I'm convinced $500,
That's not counting the plane ticket.
not counting plane ticket.
And that's
So-
not including souvenirs.
No, but yeah. So this is what the $500 would include: 3 nights in a hotel.
Yeah. Shortest
Your
trip
food-
ever, too.
Yeah, it's short. That's why too. It might be tricky because I'm mainly wanting to take pastors with me,
Mm.
and so we wouldn't be gone any Sunday. We leave on Monday, you get back on Saturday, and then yeah, 3 nights in a hotel, all your food, and then all the exhibits. A lot of stuff's free, but there are things you have to pay for, like the Hezekiah's tunnels and the Wailing Wall tours,
Yeah,
and
but if you get up early, you can get all this stuff done in 3 days, like
oh
because
yeah.
it's all right there and within a mile or two of each other. Like it's bang, 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 bang. You get it all done.
Well, and there's a bunch of stuff I didn't do. Um, when we were there that I've learned about since then too. I've got it all mapped out. I've got it all planned. And then
Mm.
one of the cool things we're gonna do
That's here.
that one evening we are going to go to the Mount of Olives.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
sunset and sunrise is perfect up there
oh
at the
yeah,
viewing area.
yeah. But we are going to be in the evening at the Mount of Olives. I'm going to bring a 360 camera too. So if you have an Oculus, later you'll be able to pretend that you were there
Yeah.
in the middle of the most interesting conversation you will ever hear. And and with this group of pastors, we are going to sit there somewhere in the area where Jesus gave the Olivet Discourse, and we're just going to go hang out and talk prophecy.
Yeah.
And I mean, imagine just getting with a group of preachers, specifically ones who have their heads screwed on straight with eschatology, and you get to sit around and talk eschatology in the place where Jesus gave it.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
you
mean,
get your sleep on the plane, really.
yeah, you're not going to get a lot. Yeah, you're not going to get a lot of sleep on this trip, and also, and you're going to do a lot of walking.
Yeah. You're going to lose a lot of weight. Like me,
Yeah.
I lost all my weight
Yeah.
when I was over there.
Yeah, when I was there, I had done like one thing on the documentary. It's one that kind of blew my mind is there would be parts where you would have it on me that was like during COVID, and then Israel, and just the difference in my weight. I'm like, whoa, what? Yeah, because
Yeah.
I'd put on some weight early in COVID when we filmed some of that stuff, but I had gotten rid of it all. And so when I was in Israel, I ate a ton. I ate junk. I gained no weight
Yeah.
because we walked so much, and the food is good over there, and it's not that expensive.
Yeah.
But yeah,
The
so
food is good.
yeah, what I want to do, I've got to find if I can find cheap tickets, that have a direct flight somewhere in America to Tel Aviv. We would all need to go on the same flight because we can't just meet somewhere in Jerusalem. People aren't going to, but
And you have to fly in, not on holiday, or fly out. The problem with flying out on a Saturday isn't that their Sabbath?
no, well, when I flew in, when I went there with you, I
Because
think
they
I
can't.
left on
They don't. All the buses are closed down
yo,
on Saturday.
well,
But you
no,
wouldn't be flying out. You'd be flying out on Friday.
yeah, we'd be flying out on Friday.
Right. Okay. Yeah. You'd be
so
fine.
we'd fly in on Monday, fly out on Friday.
Right. Right.
But yeah, um, but yeah. So the thing is, we the plane tickets. So you don't want to spend $1,500 on a plane ticket and then do a 4-day trip. You know what I'm saying? And now when I went with you, I spent $850 on a plane ticket.
Yeah.
I
I think mine was like $1,200.
mm-hmm.
So it would probably be the prices from around that area.
Right.
Around that.
So, yeah. So to me, that was worth it. So it might be like a $1,500 total for, and so if you think it's worth $1,500 for something that's only, 4 days, 3 nights, this is it. But it will be the best experience of Jerusalem you'll ever get.
Yeah, walk down. You'll get a walk down in all these tunnels, even tunnels that not even opened. You might get a walk in.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, you think everything would be policed like crazy out there?
Yeah, it's not.
It's not. I mean, and we broke so many rules, got yelled at so many times, and nobody ever called the cops on us. Now they do get parking tickets like crazy. Out there. They're good at policing that, but we won't have cars.
One thing I never went to that you went to is that Ananias house, right?
House of Caiaphas?
House of Caiaphas, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That would be cool to go to.
Yeah. That's really cool. I got some 360 videos there that were on the corrupted memory card. I'm so upset about.
Yeah.
I went there at night by myself. That was really neat. I think one of my most enjoyable things I did at night out there was I walked up to the Eastern Gate. I walked right up. I mean, right up to it at night. And you want to talk about a beautiful view that was just incredible. And I was out there all by myself.
Yeah.
I mean, I was completely alone out there. I on the way out there, I walked by three Muslim guys, and I got a little scared because like, man, these guys could beat me up, and nobody's gonna hear me yell. And but they didn't bother me. And but yeah, it was a great experience. It really was.
Yeah, it is. And sorry, this turned into infomercial for
Yeah.
your upcoming tour to Israel, but I would love to go on that tour. I just
Yeah.
like being over there. It's so much fun, and to not having to worry about the car and the rental car and everything. I think that would be a real stress-free trip, because a
Mhm.
lot of the stress comes with the planning the car and the stuff. But the hotel that I think you're thinking about is the one where we stayed in. That's
Yeah,
right next
that
to
mm,
that's right next to the Western Wall and stuff. It's the perfect hotel to stay at. They give you free, awesome breakfast in the morning, and so that really you have to kind of minus that from your hotel because of the free breakfast.
yeah. Well, oh yeah, yeah, because yeah, that's a free meal every day, and
Yeah.
it wasn't a bad hotel. It was small.
Yeah.
It's small, but
But
it's three
the
nights.
people at the front counter were awesome.
Oh yeah, yeah, and yeah, but most Americans they'd be terrified staying over there. It was a scary looking area, but
It's not scary though.
no, I walked through that neighborhood alone at night every night we were
Yeah.
there, and everybody was nice to me. Nobody did anything to me. The most scared I ever got is I was walking one time and it was a very dark area, and
Mhm.
a bunch of cats jumped up out of a dumpster, scared me half to death. And there's cats everywhere in Jerusalem.
There
They're
is
they're everywhere.
everywhere.
Blew
Everywhere.
my mind, but
Just stray cats everywhere.
yeah, but yeah, nobody ever got aggressive with me. It was, I mean, yeah, I honestly, I kind of like the Palestinians.
Yeah.
I know that's not politically correct, and I'm not supposed to say that right now, but they were really nice to me.
Really
So
hospitable people.
they just want your
Yeah.
money. Well,
Yeah.
good. I'm glad I didn't get beat. I'm glad they wanted my money, and so they were nice to me, and they didn't beat me up. It's just, yeah. I ate a lot of their food. I do think I got a parasite on that trip,
Yeah.
but it was worth it.
Well, all right. That's pretty much it, guys. I appreciate you guys tuning in, and if you made it this far, I mean, I hope you go on this tour with Pastor McMurtry. It will be an awesome tour. I can attest to that because I know where the hotel he's talking about. I can already visualize the tour in my mind because of, and you'll get a great walk every morning up that hill because every morning you get a walk up this
Mhm.
big hill. So I mean, if you want to lose weight, it's a perfect training
Yeah,
thing for you. But anyways,
that's a good promo there.
yeah,
You will lose weight
just in
on
four
this trip.
days, just being
Yeah,
there. Yeah.
yeah.
All right.
Eat all you want and lose weight.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in to this stream. Support the film, guys. If you can, go to framingtheworld.com, donate to this project. It's an important project that we are so close in getting out, but we're literally in a holding pattern right now because we need to get the funds in. So if you can support us, if you know someone that wants to become a producer, we really are looking for producers. And if you are listening and you just want to become part of this, it's a cool thing to become part of this film and to see the rough edits, kind of see how the process of filmmaking goes and changes and morphs. You'll It'll be an interesting experience for you. So thank you for tuning in, guys. God bless you. Thank you, Pastor, for coming and doing the show. Hope you have a great rest of the day. God bless.